going viral of another frightening attack targeting an Asian American. This one happening today in San Francisco.
The gunman was charged in the killing of 8 people at 3 different spas. 6 of the victims were of Asian descent.
And someone actually called you coronavirus as a slur?
Says there have been nearly 3,800 reported racist attacks on the community since March of 2020.
The J-Train meeting is brutal. Fists flew both ways until they didn't. Eventually, an Asian man passes out after getting punched, choked.
Video shows the attack outside of a building on 43rd Street in Manhattan. The attack, too violent to fully show on television, as the suspect repeatedly stomps on the 65-year-old victim's head, including a security guard seen on video standing by and not stepping in to help. One man even shutting the door.
This isn't something new just since the pandemic started.
What happens right now and over the course of the coming months will send a message for generations to come as to whether we matter.
So here we are again, sharing how we feel. Is anyone listening?
Whenever you're ready.
My name is Sophia Sa, and I'm Korean American.
My name is Ryan Rim, and I'm a Korean American.
I'm Cassie Ren, and I am a Chinese American.
I'm Ellis Han, and I'm Korean American.
My name is Jessica Wong, and I'm a Chinese American.
I'm Jackson Kim, and I'm Korean American.
I feel like one thing people always assume is that I'm fluent in Korean or something, because like I'm not. I could talk to my family, my friends, people in my church, all that good stuff. But if you like land me in like the middle of Seoul and like expect me to talk, nah, I can't do that. Sorry.
I've even had people, even in California, assume that I can't even speak English just because of the race that I am.
I would speak a lot of Korean in school, and I always had people come for me for it because it was never something that they've heard before.
We're kind of assumed as more quiet, I think, and we keep to ourselves.
A misconception that people might have of Asian Americans in general is that we're silent and we won't speak up.
And that's a big issue because what's been happening up to this point so far, I think it is, and I hope that it is a sign for communities to see the importance of having a voice, showing that they have a voice, and actively using it so that these kind of things don't happen.
We're not really seen as scary or dangerous, and a lot of times people perceive us to be smarter.
Is that I'm smart.
They assumed that I was smart because I was Korean.
I mean, there are like the stereotypes that everyone knows, like being good at math.
There was a time when people just called me like a calculator.
Hearing the word ching or having like people like hold their eyes back to make fun of you.
There was a time when I was just called yellow. When I'd bring like Korean food to school, there would be very mixed reactions. I don't know, like every part of who I was connected back to being Asian and me being different.
I didn't know how to feel about it. I didn't really know. I don't think I understood what like getting mocked for being Asian meant.
The jokes still hurt, but we've become so numb to it because we've heard so much of it that now it's almost become normalized. That's one thing I wish more people were aware of because it comes off as a joke so often.
With all the hate crimes going on, it really does make me like scared for my family, especially because I know that they don't have as well of a grasp on how like America is socially constructed right now.
My parents being like still in my hometown, and they do have to work in the restaurant every single day, that like I'm scared that something's going to happen to them.
A lot of the attacks have been happening against elderly or people who are not as strong and can't really defend themselves. Having grandparents who live in the city who, you know, like to be out and about and hearing the hate crimes against elderly Asian people. I'm this small, short Asian girl, and if someone was having a so-called bad day, they could decide to hurt me and I would be very defenseless.
And especially because of the attacks on elderly now, I literally told my mom the other day, like, don't go outside.
These hate crimes happening a couple blocks away from where I live or where I walk to school. It's uneasy. It makes me feel scared to walk out in the street holding my pepper spray a little bit closer to me. It's just, it's not safe, and especially being a woman of color, it's scary. And I think that's something that's so terrifying to think about.
I just assume, oh, it's gonna be me next, or my family next, or my friends next, and it is very scary.
People are so used to labeling the Asian community as the model minority. We see so little of the Asian American experience, you know, put on the media for the public to really digest and understand and see all the terrible things that Asian Americans go through. In Hollywood cinema, Asians are portrayed either as a stereotype, which is a nerd, a geek, you know, for comic relief, or they're perceived as rich and glamorous, like Crazy Rich Asians and whatever show on Netflix, Bling Empire. But there's this entire middle range of Asian Americans that exist in the United States that is not represented in media or in film.
Most importantly now especially, I think a lot of people don't expect Asians to be leaders. They expect them to kind of like fit the model minority myth and to be background people. For people who are in the majority, for like white people, it's something that they'll never be able to understand.
A lot of people have the assumption that like the easiest minority to be is an Asian, and as much as like the things that we go through are not as like in your face or as aggressive despite like the current events, it's nothing to be dismissed. And I feel like because it is dismissed so often, that's why Asian jokes and like racism towards Asians is so easily looked over. There's nothing to look over. There's nothing that like doesn't matter. It is racism and it is hate crimes, like, and you can't dismiss that.
If there's one thing that you would hope they take away from everything you've said, what would it be?
I think I just want people to take the Asian American Pacific Islander events and issues as like very serious.
Is to not generalize people. We learn hate, but we can also learn love. To have these conversations with your friends, Asian American or not, if not, even better, I think that talking about this for sure is definitely going to not only help Asian Americans deal and cope with what they're going through, but also spread awareness. It starts with knowing about the cause and believing in the cause first.
There's definitely some good things, and I'm very proud of being Korean American, but there are a lot of struggles that have come with it that I don't think would have come if I was white.
Speak up. If you're in a position to donate, we have a responsibility to do so, especially if you're part of the Asian community. In light of current events, like, it's really encouraging, and like it's good to see that so many people are standing up now.